Back to State of the Nation, ASUU National President Professor Biodun Oguyemi has said that the union suspended its industrial action following its latest meeting with representatives of the federal government led by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, with the caveat, though, that they will resume the strike if the federal government renege on its side of the deal. Well, I'm now being joined by Dele Ashiru. He is indeed the chairman, ASUU Unilag chapter. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us on State of the Nation.
Thank you very much.
Revitalization funds, that's the biggest question for ASUU against the federal government, and it amounts to about 1.3 trillion, we understand, to which you got only 20 billion naira. Why then call off a strike?
Well, the initial needs assessment fund was 1.3 trillion. When we were on strike in 2012/2013, President Goodluck Jonathan released 200 billion. Between 2013 and today, the outstanding was 1.1 trillion. And when we commenced the strike, we thought that government would be sensitive enough, to release at least one tranche after 5 years. But unfortunately, we just got 20 billion in the first instance.
Are you satisfied that you called off the strike as ASUU?
Well, as ASUU, we are satisfied. But the issues that led to the strike are still in contention. That's why the strike was conditionally suspended. For instance, on revitalization fund, government promised to release another 25 billion in April, May, and then resume their commitment to the memorandum of understanding, which led, to the strike in 2013. So what government is saying is that there was a summit late last year, and that the summit identified some sources of funds for education in Nigeria. That as soon as they get executive approval to do that, they will live up to their billing.
Do you believe that at the end of the day, ASUU against the federal government, this issue will be resolved? Because we're looking at a huge sum, 1.3 or at least 1.1 trillion now. Or was this basically suspended because of the elections?
No, ASUU is not a political organization.
But
ASUU is a trade union.
Yes, we know that, but the students themselves, some of them, have domiciled their registration centers in the universities. So could this be a litmus, or should I say, a catch for the students to be able to vote?
Well, we didn't consider that in all of our meetings with government. We were on strike. We wanted government to meet some critical, demands that we have made. In a negotiation, you can't stick to your guns and say, unless I get 100%, I am not going to move. That is no longer a negotiation. Now, having met government severally, and then they put all the cards on the table, we also analyzed it. And then they promised that they will be faithful, to these terms, new memorandum of action.
Well, it's not the first time they've said that.
Yeah, it's not the first time.
What makes this one different?
But also, the union cannot be on strike in perpetuity. So at some point, you have to consider all the options and take the best decision in the interest of the nation and in the interest of the education system. So what ASUU is doing is a patriotic, struggle to ensure that, having gone this far, we only hope that government will live up to its expectation by honoring the agreement this time around. And also, the suspension of the strike is conditional, conditioned upon government's faithfulness to all the timelines in the agreement. What appears different now is that in the past we have agreements without timelines. But now, for every item on our charter of demand, timelines have been attached. And we only look forward to government meeting these timelines. If they don't...
These are quarterly timelines.
Yeah, some are quarterly, some are even annual. For example, the payment of the outstanding arrears of end academic allowances will spread over 36 months. But we thought that, look, if government is faithful to the implementation of these terms, we could still sacrifice And that's why sometimes when ASUU is vilified, some of us wonder whether they really understand what the issues are. Because I don't know of any category of workers in this country that will allow its allowances, accumulated allowances, to be spread over 36 months. But here we are. For the interest of our students and the education system in Nigeria, we are saying, okay, but do not renege this time around.
And if they do, you go back on strike.
Well, we will take,
because that's the words of Professor Abiodun said it, that if they renege, they will go back on strike. So,
yes,
I mean, this is very likely that if you don't get that tranche of 20 billion by March, as you said, you're going to go back on strike.
Yeah, but even before that time, we will continue to engage, those we signed these agreements with. And also, we'll begin to tell the public that, look, we called off this strike in the interest of the education system. But here we are again, the government is living up to its billing.
How confident do you think, wards and parents, if you will, guardians, have on the education system in Nigeria? Because this perpetual cycle of strikes seems to have read again. Well, we thought we're done with this in the late 90s.
Well, you see, when you have a government that is insensitive, you have no choice but to compel that government to do what is right.
Are you saying this government is insensitive?
This government,
even with the amounts that they've already released to us?
1.1 trillion, you are releasing 20 billion, 25 billion.
But you're expecting more in March.
20 billion?
So why don't you strike a better deal, say 200 billion every quarter?
No, but what government is saying is, we have identified some other sources of funding which needs executive approval. Once we get that executive approval, there will be some quantum of money to fund the system. So let's give the benefit of doubt. Let's wait and see when they are going to get the executive approval.
That's a good place to let it rest. Dele Ashiru is the chairman, ASUU UNILAG chapter. Many thanks indeed for enlightening us and analyzing the issues further with us here on State of the Nation. And that's the program. I want to thank you as well for being a part of it. I'm Gimba Umar. This is State of the Nation. Bye for now.